Hey guys, before we get started, I need to give a quick shout out to this video's sponsor, Swagbucks. Swagbucks is a site where you can take surveys, watch videos, shop online, or even just surf the web to get gift cards and cash. After seeing it for myself, I was surprised to find that it was just that simple. Takes a little time out of your day, but the rewards can really rack up over time. So if you're curious about it for yourself, check out the link in the description, and thank you again Swagbucks for sponsoring this video. Hey everyone, Gaijin Goombah here. Sorry about the mess though, we're still trying to get moved into our new place.
Okay, hold on. What? Wait.
You got it?
I got it.
Anywho, it's been about a month since my last video, and I've been dying to get into more anime analysis since I've moved. But it's been tricky trying to figure out what to talk about first. There's just so much old and new that I'd love to dig into. But believe it or not, the anime that really got my cultural analysis juices flowing this time around came from an anime that I never thought I'd really like all that much. Kakegurui. For a non-viewer, Kakegurui seems like just another high school anime with cute girls and a bit of a gambling twist. But from the very first scene, you realize this isn't your regular romp of cute characters with bubbly personalities. It's dark, menacing, and... yeah.
Should we be showing this?
No, trust me, I've got an analytical point to all this.
Alright, if you say so. I'm gonna go unpack the bathroom.
Granted, I've never seen a gambling anime that was all sunshine and rainbows, but Kakegurui takes gambling anime to a pretty dark place. And to be honest, I think that's what makes the show so freaking popular. Kakegurui is without a doubt the most popular anime of the summer 2017 season, and I can see why. Its headfirst dive into this dark underworld of pretty girl gambling brings out some of the most diverse and detailed character expressions I've seen in a very long time. At first glance, the characters might seem like just average anime characters, but under its calm collective exterior, the range of emotions, anger, ecstasy, fear, sadness, ruthlessness are all vibrantly displayed, and I can respect the heck out of that as someone who appreciates good animation. But the one thing I couldn't get was the message behind the show. I know with that said, a lot of you want to tell me to just enjoy the show, but if there's anything I've learned about good anime is that it's never made for its own sake. Art has meaning and purpose behind it, and for a while now, I've been wondering what that meaning behind Kakegurui is. It's certainly not in the surface level story. I mean, I'm sorry guys, but the stakes are so astronomically silly in the show that it's really hard to take it seriously. Yumiko is basically made of money, so the millions that she bets doesn't really have much of an impact, and if she were to die in the more dramatic games of chance, that would pretty much end the story. But for as much as I didn't care for the story, I refuse to believe that something made with this much care was created for the sake of hitting some kind of formula. And the more I began to look past the story and characters for what they were on the surface, I started to realize what they actually represent. A dark, dark take on the dehumanizing horrors of gambling. But to understand the brilliant message of Kakegurui, we first gotta dive into the extensive culture of gambling in Japan. Under Criminal Code Chapter 23 of their constitution, gambling in Japan is illegal. However, there are a handful of gray areas with exceptions to that rule. For example, pachinko is able to dodge this law due to its apparent importance to culture and its creative payout method. On one hand, selected government bodies give protection to pachinko as a cultural conservation effort, and on the other, pachinko parlors never convert balls into money. Instead, they give the player random items ranging from candy bars to lighters, who then go to a local shop near the parlor and, quote, sell those items for a fixed amount of money. A tricky method, but completely legal nonetheless. The only other two, quote, legal forms of gambling I could find in Japan are the Takara Kuji lottery and the Koei Kyogi public competition betting. And the only reason those two dodge the gambling law is due to how regulated and involved the local government is. Takara Kuji lottery prize pools must be less than 50% of total sales, with the rest going to charities and government projects, while the Koei Kyogi event betting is completely regulated by the government, requiring that the prize pool be at least 75 to 80% of the sales. It's those two methods that prevent the gambling hosts from easily abusing profit from those gambling sales. So why bring this all up? What does it have to do with Kakegurui? Well, the bad news is nothing, because there isn't a single form of legal gambling going on in Kakegurui. I mean, none. There are no racing bets, no lotteries, and surprisingly no pachinko, which means I'm terribly surprised local law enforcement hasn't completely descended upon this high school and arrest everyone in it. I understand that all these kids come from really rich families, but that hasn't been stopping the police from cracking down on illegal gambling as of late. But what's really interesting is that Kakegurui's games of gamble are not only a motif of illegal gambling, but illegal gambling that has hit Japanese headlines fairly recently. And this can be seen as early as the first episode. In episode 1, a woman named Yumiko Jabami, then antagonist Mary Saotome, challenges series protag Yumiko to a gamble game of rock, paper, scissors, or janken if you want to get technical. However, instead of the traditional method of hand tossing, the girls use cards which were created by the student body, and each round, those cards would change, giving Mary quite an edge since she had a stranglehold over most of the student body for one reason or another. Now I'm sure you're thinking, what's so illegal about janken? Kids play it all the time and it's not like we sent them to jail. Well, that's the thing, we actually did. Back in 2010, gambling ring owner Tomoyuki Miyamoto and 2 others were arrested and confessed to earning 130 million yen through a cell phone gambling site that would allow mobile phone users to play janken for cash prizes. Tickets were 315 yen with prizes of 1,000 yen for winning 3 straight rounds and 10,000 yen for winning 5 straight rounds. It was only too bad that the likelihood of winning 5 straight games was less than 1%. And what made it worse is that 27,000 people, including minors, played this game. And out of the 130 million yen gained from those bets, only 1.43 million was paid out as cash prizes. It was all done by manipulating the rock, paper, scissors system, which is eerily similar to Mary's cheating methodology in the anime. But the illegal gambling doesn't stop there. Next, we have the Traditional Culture Research Club president, Yuriko Nishinotoen, who specializes in an altered form of Chohan Bakuchi called Life or Death. An overly enthusiastic, hard-talking, and often shirtless dealer tosses 2 dice into a cup to mix them, and then places the cup face down on the table. Bets are cast as to whether or not evens or odds are showing by the dice. The cup is revealed, winners get their earnings, and the game is played again. To those of you wondering why the dealers were shirtless, it comes from the seemingly extensive proof dealers would show to prove that they weren't cheating, though we learn in Kakegurui that there were methods that went around all that. However, despite its close cultural ties to Japan, this game too is very illegal and has been for some time, considering that the game was created by the precursors to the Yakuza, the Bakuto. Basically, all the Yakuzas tied to gambling, their full body tattoos, and self-mutilation as signs of atonement all started with these guys. More on them later though, maybe as part of a Yakuza Kiwami video or something. Finally, we got Midari Ikishima, and I gotta say, if any of these girls would spend the rest of their lives in jail for their gambling games, Ikishima would be it. Never mind her Saw-like games of gambling, just owning a gun is an offense that could likely take you to your grave. Public ownership of firearms in Japan was actually outlawed in 1965, and merely discharging a firearm, regardless of who it was and where it was, can put you in jail for life. I mean, it doesn't matter how you slice it, guys. Every sort of gambling game these girls do, under Japanese law, gray area or not, is completely illegal. But that's only one half of what I find to be Kakegurui's sociological message about gambling. There's another undeniable motif at work here. Kakegurui is not only about illegal gambling, it's about casino illegal gambling. While many of the gambling games the anime has presented are borrowed from other inspirations, most of them have gambling aesthetics. Even Chohan, a game unmistakably rooted in Japanese culture, has been perverted into an extreme form of roulette. Cards used to play these various games have by and large been casino cards, the currency to bet within these games have been chips, and for crying out loud, even the school uniforms look like dealer suits and casino employee uniforms. This show is reveling in casino culture, and in my theory there's a very important reason for that. The concept of traditional casinos have been something that's been really hot within the Japanese parliament for the last few decades now, as they've been outlawed under the above-mentioned Criminal Code Chapter 23. Yet there's been a public push to make them a reality in Japan for tourism and general revenue. And after 15 long years of intense delegation, the Japanese government made casinos legal on December 15th, 2016, less than a year ago. However, the fight for casinos is far from over. Regulations have to be set by the federal and local government branches, which will push the opening of Japan's first official casinos to 2022 at the earliest. And only 2 months ago, in June of 2017, those regulations started getting serious. Lawyers have been putting together a heaping load of anti-gambling addiction bills in the wake of 2016's push towards traditional casinos, and this is where the whole theory comes together. According to the Health, Labor, and Welfare Ministry in Japan, over 5 million men and women in the country have extensive gambling addictions. That's almost 5%, which is staggering compared to the global average of 1% of a country's population suffering from gambling addiction. This figure comes in the wake of Japan's proposed gambling resorts, which could very easily increase that number. Though Kakegurui began its manga publication in 2014, 2 years ahead of the legalization of casinos in Japan, the talk of those casinos and gambling debt has been a hot issue for years prior. And now that the law has passed, the Kakegurui anime release this summer could not have been any more appropriate, because I believe it holds a subtle, or maybe even not so subtle, message about the dark world of gambling and gambling addiction. I mean, first of all, the name of the show, Kakegurui, means gambling addict, and that's what the series emphasizes. When the animation goes ham, it goes ham on the expressions of those who hit their emotional apex during a big gamble. In some cases, it's anger, in some cases, it's fear, and in some cases, it's ecstasy. But none of these expressions or emotions are placed in a very positive light. In fact, 9 times out of 10, they're repulsive and grotesque. But in any other circumstance, all the characters look and act like average anime characters. And underneath their collected and cute visage is a maddening, compulsive need to gamble. And I can't help but feel like the series is trying to illustrate the emotional negativity that comes with gambling addiction. The addictive rush of adrenaline, the crippling fear of coming to terms with losing the game, the unabated levels of inhuman greed and selfishness that comes from those who cheat. Kakegurui puts the dark truth under a freaking spotlight, showcasing how gambling addiction erodes one's humanity in one facet or another. But that's only the beginning when it comes to what I see as Kakegurui's brilliant message. Another connection I constantly see is the students' behavioral connections to Yakuza gambling rackets. Not only are the majority of their gambling games technically illegal, the reparations demanded by the students feel very on par to how those rackets settle debts. Similar to how the aforementioned Bakuto would take pinky fingers and other parts as payment for settling gambling debts, Kakegurui characters have also been seen to take body parts in lieu of payment. Fingernails in the case of Itsuki Sumeragi, and an eyeball in the case of Midari Ikishima. However, the most common thing that happens to those that can't settle their debt in the anime is that they become slaves to the other students. Livestock, as they would often be called. Later on in the series, we discover that these livestock slaves will actually have their entire lives dictated by the student government. Their jobs, who they marry, how many children they have. Honestly, if this isn't a metaphor for how gambling addiction literally controls your life, then it sure seems like a metaphor for how creditors of illegal gambling institutions take control of the lives of their debtors. Case in point, back in 2011 after the Fukushima Daiichi radioactive fallout incident, crime gangs were reported enforcing men who owed money to the Yakuza to volunteer for decontamination projects, an obviously dangerous job. And these poor sods only earned half the regular wage while the crime bosses took the rest. But all these things accumulate under the casino aesthetic I mentioned earlier. While there is a great deal of support for the establishment of resort casinos, there is an extensive amount of pushback from a lot of everyday people, angry at the possibility of that 5% population trapped in gambling addiction to increase. And unlike a lot of other gambling anime like legendary gambler Tetsuya, Akagi, Kaiji, or even No Game No Life, Kagegurui's aesthetic is almost uniformly casino themed. Though I can't be 100% certain, in light of everything that's been happening in the gambling world of Japan, I can't help but think that Kakegurui is a statement from the mind of series author Homono Kawamoto about the impending dangers as casinos make their way into Japan's shores. How these casinos are no better than the illegal casino rackets that gangsters would run, and how they'll only contribute to Japan's gambling addiction. It's hard to put that in a stone since I could find very little personal statements from Kawamoto, but everything that makes this series, the visual designs, the over-exaggerated expressions, the incredibly dark tone, and the gambling obsession that overshadows this series, all of it gives me pause considering the state of Japan's own gambling culture. Maybe it's a statement, or maybe I'm looking too hard into it. But either way, I still feel like this anime has a lot to say, even if it doesn't mean to. It's mean, it's twisted, and it's gritty. But so is the world that it represents. Thanks for watching, everyone. And hey, if you want to check out something a little less depressing, come chill with me over on my streams over on Twitch, or kick it with me on Twitter. It's the best place to catch me for questions or announcements about future projects. And before I go, I gotta say a big thank you to Megami33 for letting me borrow her cover of Kakegurui's opening, Deal with the Devil. She's got a great set of pipes, so go check it out. Otherwise, I've got a lot more anime and gaming analysis videos to dig into in the meantime, and be sure to sub if you like this kind of content. But until next time, everyone, this is Gaijin Goombah, signing out.